Hello everyone, this is Grin Reviews, and this is part 2 of my thoughts about the original space jockey in Alien, and why I think Prometheus ruined the whole idea behind it. So I said in a previous video, I actually would have preferred if they actually had the space jockey as an actual cyborg, meaning that what was said about him growing out of the chair was actually true, meaning that was the type of alien. Yes, it's strange, yes, it's bizarre, but that's the beauty of it. That's what I would have wanted to see, and I think that's what Giger intended. If you actually look at his original drawings, his original designs, you see that the space jockey, he doesn't even have any legs. He doesn't have enough room in that chair for legs. So he's not supposed to have legs. He was actually supposed to be growing out of the chair. That's why he looks fused to it. Some people speculated maybe he just looks fused to the chair because he's fossilized, maybe because he was made the host by the xenomorphs, and that's what made him look like that. But I say no, he is supposed to actually be growing out of the chair. If you just look at the whole ship looks organic, the walls look organic, they look part organic, part mechanical. So all the tubes in the walls and in the floor, they are obviously mechanical. But the walls in between them, they look organic, they look like bones. And if you actually look at the behind the scenes of the making of it, if you actually look at what Giger tried to do, he openly says, I was trying to make it look as organic as I can. He was like bringing bones on set, trying to build stuff from actual bones, real bones.
It was not organic enough, organic-like. It looked like handmade from artists. I thought bones, yeah, they are. That was just fresh, and we had a big box full of bones, and there was such a smell. I want to have a landscape who is very much organic-like, but there was no time and no money for this. A real mixed up, a real biomechanical landscape, that would be good.
Giger's sets were so erotic, and I mean, his big vaginas and penises, and I mean, it's like, you know, it's the whole thing is like you're going inside of some sort of womb or whatever. I mean, it's sort of visceral and all of those things, and I think all those elements came into it, and that's what makes it really work.
So anyway, back to this room with the space jockey. So just look at the floor beneath him. Does this look like a floor designed for walking? I mean, does it look like a comfortable floor to walk on? So if this space jockey is just in a suit and he just got into this chair, so before that he was supposed to walk to this chair, right? So how come you don't see any stairs or handles to help him go in and out of this chair if it is a workstation? Why does the floor not look like it's designed for walking? And so my answer is that it's not. My answer is that he's supposed to be permanently attached to his workstation. He is grown for this specific function of being a pilot in this case.
The alien, and he hand brushed the alien, airbrushed it.
I understand somebody tried to set fire to it or something, because they thought it was the work of the devil. Great.
And so I assume that this is kind of a very advanced spacefaring race, which actually evolved like the Borg in Star Trek to being cyborgs, to being connected to their ship. And so the beauty of the designs of Giger is that you cannot really even tell where the biology begins and the mechanical stuff ends. It all kind of mixed together in a very smooth kind of way. So anyway, in this movie, apparently from the dialogue, they say that he is fossilized, and so I assume the whole ship is also fossilized. If the ship was actually organic, then the walls and all that stuff are also basically fossilized, and that's why they look so dry and dead. Basically everything is dead and dried up. And so I would have liked to see a prequel in which the space jockey is actually alive, and we would have actually seen him as this creature who is living out of a chair, and the walls actually being alive, except for all the tubes and all that stuff which is mechanical. The actual walls in between would actually be alive and not just bones as we see them. So imagine that if we saw an actual living ship, a living organism which is also a ship, which is part mechanical like a cyborg. How cool would that be? And there was never any movie which actually did this idea. This idea was very often in various TV shows.
The ship and the crew existed symbiotically.
Like in Star Trek, for example, there were a few episodes which showed kind of organic-like ship. There was an episode called The Tin Man, which showed an organic living ship. Also in Voyager, there was a species who used organic ships. So this idea was in several episodes. Also in Stargate Atlantis, the villains of that show called the Race, they had organic ships. So this idea was used in many TV shows, but because of the lack of budget, they really couldn't show it properly. So imagine if they actually had a movie, and I think it's possible today to do this. Imagine to see this idea actually in a movie. And this is an idea that I love. This would be a perfect match for a horror science fiction movie. This idea was also in the old game StarCraft, which had the Zerg, which by the way are also very similar to xenomorphs. So in StarCraft you could actually see they actually have organic ships, they have organic buildings because they are a perfect organism, they are able to grow whole buildings and all that stuff. So imagine that idea here. Imagine if this advanced civilization was actually able to grow spaceships. They would be part mechanical, they would have a mechanical skeleton, but they would have all these biological additions. And the species itself would be cybernetic, so they would grow members of the species into their workstations, and they would be like Borg drones, and they would not all look like the space jockey, and that's the beauty of it. That would add variety. They would not just all look the same. That's actually something I agree with Ridley Scott about. I watched a few interviews of him, and he actually said that he thinks the xenomorph got old and he wanted to add more variety, and that's something that I actually want there to be more variety. I think that's what made the original Alien so creepy, because we never knew what the alien would look like next.